Hello, and today we have a new one. We have a new tier list, which is quite similar to the last one, to be honest, in that it's about The Walking Dead, but with a twist. This one's about something other than the episodes, because obviously it is. Because today we are ranking the characters. Now there's a lot of characters here, 71 as I've counted. Hopefully that's right, but I'm not going through it again. Um, These are the characters that are sort of a bit main. Like they don't have to be perfectly main characters, but they have to be like a force, like that you a somewhat rememberable character, like at least a little bit to actually get on the list. Um, I'm going to do this in three parts. I'm going to be doing season one, season two, and then the third part will be season three and season four, because it's just a little bit more here. Season two will be the shortest, and then you can see you can see how that would be the best way to go about things. Um, so speaking about season one, I guess it's time to start ranking people who show up. We have right now. Actually, wait. I should make us. Don't know why I'm getting so into it quick. I should explain exactly how this actually works. I'm not going to just put the characters that are villains down here. That's not how this is going to work. I'm going to put the characters that are actually well written, affect the story, have actually depth to them up here. Certified G might made that seem different. For example, there are a few characters that there's only actually three pictures from this here that are pictures from season four. Um, these which well eventually we'll get to it and I'll explain it anyway. So we begin with the man himself, the man, the myth, the legend, Lee. Um, and what can I say? He's just so he he put so the words can't describe it. You know what I mean? That's the way it seems. Um, he perseveres. That's the word. And there's really no one like him in the list. I can't. There is 71 layers, so it's a bit laggy. Um, but unforgettable, mainly because of our next entrance, Clem, who goes 4 entire seasons. Eventually, we see the rise to be even more efficiently. I think there's no other choice really for this, and there's only three real choices that could possibly. I see like a viewpoint for it being, which is Lee, Clem, Kenny. Um, but it just has to be the greatest of all time. It's the protagonist, of course. The most writing actually happens, but I think that's just how it has to be. Um, you gotta make it how it always is down. Next we have Sean Green. Now he doesn't get much screen time for reasons that are related to his death. Um, but in Noah's time, he's actually quite a useful character, quite helpful, and it's sort of unfortunate. He really drills in the fact that anyone can get lost in that. And thinking about back to it, he's actually quite helpful. He's just like he can do it. He can do it. Um, and because he can do it, I think I'm actually going to make him very respectable. I'm not really indifferent from him, and I won't call him. This is like the nothing. This is the bad. This is the memory bad. Worst of all time. There will be some memorably bads. Um, I just know there will coming down this list. Herschel. Now Herschel in the show I like, but in this game he's sort of just angry. And I don't really see the reason for it. It's not horrifically Like he obviously gets mad after the whole this situation, but before that he just seems a little bit like a little bit too on your case. I would call him just completely indifferent uh, to him to his whole situation, putting him in C tier. Kenny, my man, Kenny, it's in the building. Now, a lot of people would put Lee on a different tier than Kenny, Kenny being below. But I think obviously he just is unforgettable. He's up there. He for 3 seasons devotes his life to the entire protection of Wem. So Lee might have done it for 4 or 5 months, but Kenny does it for years, and um, he definitely deserves unforgettable status for this. He never does anything as much as Lee does, but for the actual longevity of his usefulness, it's up there. Right, next we have Katja, Kenny's wife. Was Kenny's wife. Who is she's like one of the more well-written people in season 1, in that she's not really just a one-note character. She is the caring mother, but she also brings a little bit of what's the word? Humble. She humbles the group. She brings them back to reality a little bit sometimes. She never really goes off her head about it. And I think she goes certified G. Because she sort of, if she wasn't there, the group would have fallen apart much earlier. I think that's just how it is. Duck is he keeps Kenny sane for the moments that he's alive, and I think but as a character himself, he's annoying, but I guess that is just to be expected. I would still, I think, put him on completely indifferent. Below Herschel as well, because he's just Duck, isn't he? He's just Duck. Glenn. Oh, where's Glenn? Glenn's here. Right, Glenn. It's the thing about Glenn, because he obviously ends up meeting Herschel and being in the whole situation in the comics. We know how his fate is. Honestly, I think he dies after like any of he dies like at this point. I think during like the timeline, something like around here. But I really like how he's presented in this game. He except for the one moment in episode 1, which is obviously the only episode he's in, at the end of episode 1, where he devotes a lot of time to something that's sort of a lost cause. Let's put it that much. Other than that, would it be? I think I'd put him very respectable, but below Sean. Sean just, I feel like, did a bit more, especially for the amount of time he was in the game for. Next we have Carly. Carly, of course, saves you when you're outside, brings you into the drugstore, and she's definitely what I would now think is a better choice at the end of episode 1, even though she's a bit strange. And because of that, certified G above Katja, I think. I think that's where it should go. Now Lily, there's a lot to talk about with Lily. Lily, I honestly, because we will have to talk a bit about what eventually happens here. I liked Lily as a villain. I think it was a very good thing, bringing her back, having some past, while also having the current game be its own little thing. She does keep the group together for a little bit before such a thing happens, and I think because she sort of plays a dual role like that, she has to be unforgettable. She has to be unforgettable. It just has to be. Larry, now I don't really like Larry that much. I don't think anyone does. But he does serve as a reason why Lily is both still occurring and still in actual head. And sort of a threat to Lee for the first few episodes before the group starts to fall apart. That sort of behaviour is respectable. That sort of behaviour is respectable. Doug is the worst choice between him and Carly, but he does serve a very good purpose in the first episode, in which you have to unlock the thing. With Carly in that episode, she does follow you out to the watering, but that doesn't really go anywhere. But I did initially choose him because he's a bit more. He makes his voice known a little bit to the group, and eventually the feeling is that he would again be one of the people who keeps the group together. I wouldn't call him as certified G as Carly or Catcher, but I would call him one. Mark is only appears in episode 2. Because of the whole thing that happens to him in episode 2. He does help with the food, but other than that, he's not a very fleshed out. Ooh, what did I just do? Is it all better? Sorry about that. He isn't a very fleshed out character. We know remarkably little about him, and I'm sort of just indifferent with this whole situation. I'd say less so than everyone else, though. Next we have Ben. Oh Christ, Ben. Not Ben. Of all people, Ben? Really, Ben? Not Ben. We do indeed have Ben. Ben, obviously, we know a little bit. Well, actually, we know about how he. I do like how he's written, to be honest. He's not quite like. I would actually call him top certified G, because eventually, by the end, his mistakes, well, unforgivable, do actually get sort of reasons behind them. You sort of. It does well in making you think, oh, actually, we've been too hard on Ben. So I think that's worth making him top certified G for. What do we have next? We have Andy St. John. Not Andy St. John. Now he's the main villain of episode 2. But I feel like compared to his brother, who's coming next, he's sort of a little bit less. I do like his turn. Don't bring this the wrong way. I do like the way that he slowly unravels the fact that he's the villain until the big twist. I would call that respectably written. And his brother Danny he's a bit more cooled. Eventually, when we realise what happened, who's behind Andy? Be short. No, be. Who's behind? Sorry. Yeah, he's a bit more cool than his brother. That's Glenn. In the eventually, I keep doing this. Sorry. But he's a bit more obviously a villain. So I would. I would just put him at the bottom of very respectable. Because while I said I do like the character of his brother, he doesn't really. He isn't as deep as his brother written. With Brenda, we don't really get much about, except for she does the same thing as Andy does. Um, I just put her there as well. Well, next we have Chuck. Chuck is an absolute G. We don't really learn about much about him, but he is one of the most useful and one of the most impactful characters in the entire series, really. And the fact that he's the one who turns Lee into thinking, you need to stop being the person to protect her. You need to make her be able to protect herself. I think that's a very good message for this series. I'll call him a certified G. I think above Doug, but that's it. Maybe actually above Catcher as well. Above Catcher as well. Yeah. Upcoming next is Krista, who is one of the only season 1 characters who shows up in season 2. If only for a minute. Because she's also one of the only characters who has an unconfirmed fate. So, well, where does that lead us? Where does that put us? I think for Krista is one of the only other protectors that Clem has during her journey. It's really just them and Javier who we'll get down to in the third part. Because she cares, she understands, and after the whole thing with the baby, it just doesn't help, and then they're surviving out on their own. But she protected her as long as we can, and that is I would say that's certified G behaviour above Carla, but not Ben, because Ben we get more past about Ben. Yeah. Next we have Omid, who is, well, Krista's husband? No, I don't know. Husband or boyfriend, you know. And can't remember. I think it's just boyfriend. And we learn a bit more about him and what he's interested in with like the Civil War, which is what Lee can speak about with him. But he doesn't have much time to actually develop his character. It's really just that little bit of episode 3 and then a little bit of episode 5. And then the very start of season 2, which just sort of juggles in what you've learned already. He's a fun character, but I wouldn't call him certified G level. I think that has to go very respectable. I think I would respect Omid more than. Also, the way he dies a bit stupid. So does that bump him down? I don't know. I think very top or very respectable. Would yeah, he helps more than Sean does. So yeah. Next we have Molly. Molly is actually quite interesting in this. But it took like 4 or 5 playthroughs of that episode to actually for her to grow on me really. She does have a lot of backstory to it, and it's like one of the biggest things about that episode is the fact that she has a lot of backstory, and we eventually unravel what the reason that she's doing what she is and the way she acts. But all she really does is get the battery, and then doesn't get on the boat, which is sort of against self, I guess. I mean, it makes sense. But I think she's only certified G for the reason that she got the battery, and only very slightly on the at the bottom of it for that reason. Vernon, I like how Vernon never actually really appears as a villain, even though he is one. It's sort of just a shock, but it's a shock that he's a villain, but then it's over. You can't like do much about it. His reasoning is a bit strange, especially with like when he makes that offer. and he's just in general someone who comes in and thinks he knows what's going on with the whole situation. Sort of like James will be when I talk about him later down the road. All we really learn is he's part of the survivors group for the cancer. Other than that, nothing I can remember sticks out at me to make him a good character. I would just put him very respectable at the bottom. He's just sort of, he walks around and does stuff. He's helpful as being a doctor and getting Ormid back to health, but doesn't really do much. Bree is even worse version of Vernon. I honestly think I'm going to put her down in shaky to the core. She doesn't really do much. She sort of just is there. She knows the layout of the school. Thanks. We could have walked around the school and found the layout as well. Sure. And the stranger. Now, when I got to the stranger, I thought, it's of all the things that you could give me a reason to go and do that. We took some of your food. You left your car there. Stay in the car. You were watching us. He does leave a very chilling mark on the game though, and his past is explored a little bit in the game, especially with what happens between the time of the stealing of the food at the end of episode 2 and the end of episode 5. So I do think he deserves to be in Certified G. For that reason, I wouldn't put him very high up in Certified G. I don't think. I think maybe just above Molly. Not even that actually. I think I put him just below Molly. But that finishes off our first part of this tier list. How long have we been recording? We've only been recording 24 minutes. This will be a shorter one. This will be a little bit shorter than this, and then this will be longer because there's more characters. But I do want a decent talk about each character. I don't want to just say, oh, well, Stranger goes here, and then I don't want to do that because I want to talk about Max. I want to talk about him. Is that his name? I think that's his name. That is his name. I want to talk about Max as much as I'm talking about Lee, because otherwise I'm not giving enough credit to each thing that happens to their characters. There's numerous reasons why Clem is up here. These are just good, but these are the special characters. These are the best characters that are going up there. The Wout of all time. I guess we'll see. There are a few contenders that I see on this list to Bree, who is currently our Wout. Don't think any of them are from Season 4. Season 4 is beautifully written. But a lot of them are from Season 3, I'll just say that much. That's the next time. That's actually not the next time, this is the next time. These characters in the blue, the middle blue, these are 2 different seasons, but they're the same episode. Who will be ranking tomorrow, as of when this video comes out, hopefully. And then this will be 2 days, so the day after. But until then, I've been Suractive. This has been the first part of our 3-part tier list for the Walking Dead characters. I will do something other than Walking Dead next tier list. Don't worry. It won't be like this all the time. And I'm also going to slow down every 2 weeks or something like that, because I will eventually run out of ideas. But yeah, it might have been a bit strange the placing of the tier list. Let's do that. That's a bit better, I think. But as long as you can see everything that was going on, I think that'll be fine. Yeah, that's been it. I've been Suractive. This has been a tier list. The first part, the Walking Dead characters. Goodbye.